Welcome to the Iron Self podcast, where we jump into health, fitness, mindset, and becoming the best version of yourself. Today with your hosts, Mike and Kayla Minion. Welcome back to the Iron Self podcast. On today's episode, we welcome Dr. Shivani Gupta. Dr. Gupta is an Ayurvedic medicine practitioner. She had a fascination with health from an early age due to her family's battles with advanced diabetes. This is what began her lifelong dedication to Ayurveda. Drawing from her dedicated research and education with both a PhD and master's degrees in Ayurvedic studies and her own personal health journey, this has led her to a place today as a social entrepreneur committed to sharing her knowledge and personal experiences with a diverse global audience. Dr. Shivani believes that self-care is at the core of prevention and vibrant health for the whole self. Her vision that stemmed from studies alongside Ayurveda gurus of the 5,000-year-old philosophy in her native India sparked her design of an accessible approach to teaching Ayurveda, now shared, implemented, and practiced all over the world. Please welcome Dr. Shivani Gupta. So welcome, Dr. Shivani, to the podcast. We are so excited to have you today and to share your knowledge with our listeners.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So today we are talking inflammation in the body. We're talking Ayurvedic medicine and the differences between Ayurvedic medicine and Western medicine. Where would you like to kind of get started on this discussion?
Sure. So Ayurveda is a system of medicine from India that's over 5,000 years old. And what's funny is most people haven't heard about it. They've heard about homeopathic medicine, acupuncture, traditional Chinese medicine, Reiki, massage. And I've come to realize that people end up going all the way down the road looking for solutions. And typically when they're at the end of their rope, they find Ayurveda. So my goal is just to bring awareness to this system called Ayurveda and support people however I can while we're on our journey with inflammation and all the different things that we all struggle with.
I love it. So for those people that don't really understand, what is Ayurveda?
Sure. So it's a whole system. It's like a lifestyle. Ayurveda means science of life. So it's a preventive lifestyle that we can all lead every day. And within Ayurveda, we teach about food, how to eat, what are some diets that we can follow that'll support us on our health journey. We share about detoxification. Yoga is a sister science to Ayurveda. So yoga, pranayama, mindfulness, breathing, all these things we're talking about right now is so trendy are actually the sister sciences to Ayurveda, and we recommend them for daily life. We talk about self-care. So there's a series of self-care rituals that I teach from Ayurveda called Dinacharya, the daily rituals. And those show us how to detox the body daily, support the body daily so that we can have vibrant health. And then I also teach a lot about gut health because we want everyone to understand that our gut health is what's tied to our brain health, is what's tied to everything when it comes to prevention. So truly it's a lifestyle practice that shows us how to sleep, how to eat, how to move. And we teach people about their individual mind-body constitution. So when people understand their dosha or their constitution, then they can first of all understand themselves better, but then they can also step forward into life more aware of what they are, what they aren't, and how to balance themselves so they feel more at home in their own bodies.
I love that. I love that you said that, and I love that it's not a one-size-fits-all approach, right? There's so much to it, and it's so complex. Yeah.
It's customized. It sounds very customized for each person versus say Western medicine. It's like, oh, you have a tummy ache, here's the fix for that. It's like, no, you have a tummy ache, okay, well, let's look at all of these other aspects that could be affecting that tummy ache, and now let's really begin to treat the what I'm going to call the problem and not just the symptom. And I think that that's something that we're very big on and is promoting, is like, let's begin to really treat that problem and that issue. I have a love for Ayurveda. Like, I come from a yoga background. I don't have a whole lot of Ayurveda knowledge, but I love a lot of the concepts that I've learned over the years. What would be your favorite kind of concept that comes with Ayurveda that you kind of, it's like, you know what, everybody should be practicing this one kind of
She's
key
mean.
concept.
She's gonna make you pull it apart. I love it.
I have so many, it's hard to pick. I did my master's in Ayurvedic sciences, but I did my PhD on turmeric. And when I learned about the herbs and super spices that are in Ayurveda, I thought to myself, I was like, wow, here in the West, we keep reaching for all these superfoods, and we just keep hoping that they are the fountain of youth and they'll keep us vibrant. But these spices are so powerful. Why are people not getting it? That we can reduce inflammation with plant medicine, plant magic, and our bodies are from the earth and fully understand how to absorb and utilize what comes from the earth. So that's when I became very passionate about what are the herbs, spices, teas, supplements, and foods that we're using, and how do we cook with those spices to have vibrant health. So I would say that it's turmeric, it is ashwagandha, it is the magical herbs and spices that we can use for our own gut health and body maintenance.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. We love turmeric. It's kind of one of those things. I like to put it in everything. I mean, it does turn everything a little yellow, but
Kids always have questions why their stuff's yellow, and we're like, that's turmeric.
Yep, it's good for you. Do
Right?
you always use it with black pepper or a healthy fat?
I'll just add it into my meat source. So like if I've added like seasoning salt, I'll just add a little turmeric on there too, because it doesn't have a whole lot of flavor is one thing I noticed.
Yeah.
Like it does have a smell, but there's not a whole lot of flavor. And from my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, you don't need a whole lot of it to get the benefits of it.
So the way turmeric works is we have the plant, the raw plant. It's a family of ginger. It's a sister plant to ginger. And then we have the dried form, which is the spice. And it's become so trendy to use the spice. And of course, the spice has inherent benefits. But what a lot of people forget is we need to put it with a fat or black pepper to increase that absorption of it. So we know through science that black pepper increases the absorption by 2,000%. It's why in India, people used to make golden milk at night with whole fat milk. And that milk was like fresh from your cow in your backyard. So you knew that it was really rich in healthy fats. So to use that new golden milk trend, which a lot of people are doing, but in nut milks or skinny lattes and all that, is not as effective. You're not going to get the benefits if you're trying to make this a non-fat, cleaner, lighter drink. It was the fat that was actually creating the absorption. And so what I teach people and what I discovered through my PhD research was, out of all of turmeric, only 3% of it is the curcuminoids. And out of the 3 curcuminoids, only 1 curcumin is the most effective at reducing inflammation in the body. And so when it comes to like a jar, imagine a mason jar, small mason jar of turmeric, that whole jar, which would take forever for most people to use, is what's in a 2-week supply of the turmeric supplement I made. And the reason I made it was I'm surrounded by medical doctors in my family and my in-laws. And I realized every time I have a pain, they would give me 2 weeks of an NSAID, or they'd prescribe me something to drop that inflammation. But then I always had to live with the after effects of that. I would have stomach pain or GI distress every time I ate. And I got to thinking, I was like, okay, so my toe hurts, but then I have 2 weeks of stomach aches because I tried to get out of pain. This is not the right approach. We need to either stop more injuries, which I work out a lot more and I'm much more strong, so I don't get the injuries as much, or we need a natural solution. And so that's why I built my formula, was so orthopedic surgeons and doctors could give you a natural solution. And then after that, we get to talk about all the things you guys teach, which is that vibrant health piece.
I love that. I love that. It's, get back to basic, get back to nature. And I think that that's one of those things in society that we've gotten so far away from, is that, like you already said, we are from the earth. And I think that getting back to those basics of like being in nature, being outdoors, nourishing our body with the foods that come from the earth and not the foods that come from a factory. Like these are those elements that are really there for our longevity and for our health benefits.
Absolutely.
One question that I actually had there, just when you were talking about the difference between the spice and between the plant itself. Now, for everybody that doesn't have access to this, like, is it easy to get the actual plant itself to get turmeric to grow it, or is it?
It's a good question. So, ginger, which you could grow in your yard, is readily accessible. And if you go to the health food store and try to buy turmeric, the plant, it usually is very expensive. They're selling it for $10 or $12 a pound. where I live. And so what's interesting is if you look back to how it was utilized in India, raw turmeric was very rarely used. Sometimes it was sliced up and used as a garnish, as a pickle, but it wasn't really utilized as a spice that was used in our daily food. And so the science that I've read has shown that, like, yes, we can consume turmeric, the spice, in our food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Let's make sure we're using black pepper or a healthy fat for that absorption. And it's so good as like a baseline to support the body. And then if you have inflammation or active inflammation or known inflammation or eat inflammatory foods, then taking an additional support to significantly reduce it would help.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just different approaches.
So if we look at inflammation in the body, let's kind of dive into that. So I know a lot of people understand that processed foods increase inflammation, sugar increases inflammation. I mean, chronic stress increases inflammation. We could go on with a huge list here of all of the things that increase inflammation in our body. What does that kind of look like for signs and symptoms?
You know, I have a lot of people who are reaching out to me who are saying, look, I have joint pain, I have aches and pains, I've got GI upset frequently, I'm fatigued, I'm really tired. Because of all this and something that set all this off, I'm having this weight gain that I just can't stop. I think I have a hormonal imbalance, but I don't understand. And each person I talk to about this, I'm like, you guys, this all starts with inflammation. This all starts with some sort of dysbiosis, whether it's the gut health or the immune system not communicating well, or the triad really of our endocrine system, our immune system, and gut health. Some piece and some connection there is off. And typically it's inflammation that's frying these communication lines. So I explain to people that when our body is healthy, it can process what we throw at it. We don't have to live this perfect anti-inflammatory lifestyle where we give up all the foods that people are usually not so excited to give up. But the moment we have set off inflammation, it's like turning on light switches. You turn them all on. And the way one of my advisors explained it to me, he was the one who discovered that black pepper increases the absorption of the turmeric. He said, look, in our 20s, we have these moments where we're partying, college, pulling all-nighters, eating those inflammatory foods, really going overboard in terms of excess. And we switch on those light switches. Fast forward, you go through your 30s, career changes, significant loves, marriage, children, who knows, issues with your parents, whatever happens, like you live your life. And 30s, 40s, 50s, these time frames continue. But inflammation, when did you ever take a moment and truly detox and shut it down? When did you turn off those light switches that you turned on? And then all of a sudden, fast forward, you're in your 60s, you were symptomatic through your 40s, now we're seeing everything earlier. You're symptomatic, feeling aches and pains, not understanding, started taking a few meds, another med. And by your 60s, we have like metastasis. We have inflammation that has now run rampant. It's like that low-grade chronic persistent inflammation. It's like a fire. And it's just been doing its damage. And now it's kind of too late. Like we haven't left room for reversing it. So my job is to sit down with people and through supplements, through food, through diet, through sleep, really reverse that and get you to a place of wholeness. Because then the body, as you know, the body is moving and healthy and whole. It can fight off and deal with anything.
Right. So I think when we often hear inflammation, people think, okay, yeah, I can understand inflammation, but what does that look like in the body? And I love how you kind of explain, like, this is how those symptoms show up, because we don't acknowledge a lot of the time that this is inflammation. Oh, I have an elbow ache. It's unexplained. I don't know why. I have arthritis. It's unexplained.
Too many people just accept chronic pain too. They're just so used to living in a state of chronic pain that they accept it as normal, and this is just how they're going to live. So they just take their Advil every day and move on with their life, when if they actually take a little bit of a look, like more objective look at it and break it down, they can realize, well, maybe this does have something to do with my diet. Like I always start with the diet, because there's so many people that don't even know what a whole food is, and when you start preaching diet to them, you're like, okay, so you're eating hot dogs every day, and that to you, because it's a protein source in your mind, it's good food. But let's take a look at some of these dietary choices.
If you're ready to make a change in your life, step into the best version of you, check out our Iron Self Transformation Program. Find more info on our website, www.ironbodycoach.com.
Right, exactly, exactly. And really just showing people that we can revere our bodies. What if we instead looked at our life not as what fad diet do I have to follow to cut weight fast, which we all know we just bounce back and gain more weight from. Instead, what do I need to do to revere this body so I have longevity? So my quality of life for that last quarter or third of life is awesome. Why are we working so hard now for this retirement when look around at what retirement looks like? It's disease management. That's no fun. Like, what if we could turn over the whole paradigm and instead thrive as we age, you know?
I love that. Like, absolutely love that, because it's just, it's really leading forward and empowering yourself to take back your own power. And we're taught a lot in this society that we're powerless, or that we should be doing things a certain way.
The societal norm.
The societal norm. We learn from our parents' behaviors, right? If you watch a parent and they struggle with anxiety or depression or chronic pain or all of these other things, and you're just like, oh, well, I'm going to just have that too. It's just normal. And we normalize this, where it's like, this doesn't need to be normal. Like, there's other ways around this. So if somebody was struggling with inflammation, or with maybe some of these symptoms that come with inflammation, how might you, guide them to a place to get started?
Yeah, first steps.
Sure. So usually my first steps are, what are you eating? Let's cut one inflammatory food at a time. And you get to test for yourself if it's inflammatory to you. It's not my job to tell you. Your body will so clearly tell you if you're actually allowed to eat that food and stay pain-free. So my first one is always gluten. I'm like, just cut gluten for 2 weeks and just see what happens. And usually they're like, oh my God, I'd lost 10 pounds. Oh my God, I feel better. Oh my God. Now, gluten's hard because you have to get them to buy. That's why I start with that one. Because if you buy into that one, which is a little harder to adjust to, you have to find your gluten-free replacements, or learn how to shift how you eat. Next is sugar. Next is dairy. Next is alcohol. Just cut down quantity. If you're not willing to give it up, it's okay. And then meat. I ask them, try to cut out red meat or certain types of meat and see how it suits you. But I also promote eating white meat or seafood or whatever proteins keep you strong and healthy and happy and whole. I'm a vegetarian, so for me cutting meat's quite easy because I don't eat any. I haven't since birth. But I tell people, look, it's about you being satiated and you feeling fulfilled and energized. My second after that is my own supplement line. I built Fusionary Formulas. It's up here above my head here. And so out of Fusionary, I recommend our turmeric gold and inflammation relief, because that's our pain solution bundle. And my goal there is just to give them something that the doctors are handling all their patients anyway for chronic inflammation or acute inflammation. And then after that, I go into sleep, because sometimes we don't realize that sleep is when the body is restoring and healing and clearing inflammation. And so I really have that deeper conversation with people. I actually made a sleep guide that I can share with you guys. I want people to fix their sleep, because then the body gets to clear and restore, so that all day we have better support.
Yeah, that's that rest and restore, right? People don't realize just how important their sleep is. And when you put them on a corrective action for their sleep, like we do with our clients, we're like, okay, we're going to do a sleep log. We see how they sleep, and we're like, okay, this needs some love here. And then we start to see those shifts in behavior and shift in their mindset, and just the energy levels come up, the inflammation goes down, they just feel better, right? And it's because their body is getting a chance to actually get that rest and restore in between.
I feel like we're as a society, we're very reactive when it comes to sleep. It's like, I'll eventually get to sleep. We don't plan for it, right? It's like, I can't sleep. I can't sleep before midnight. I'm having trouble sleeping. All of these things, and we make these excuses rather than saying, you know what, I'm gonna, no more TV at 8:30. I'm going to go to bed for 9:30. I'm going to have this kind of a bedtime routine, right?
I think that's a big thing right there, is a bedtime routine, because so many people don't have one. And you never do that for your kids. Kids have a bedtime routine for a reason. Exactly. But as we age, we just kind of lose this routine. And then, bedtime is bedtime. When you're going to pass out, you pass out. And then I don't know, I'm from a fire service background. You talk to guys and they're almost like proud that they got no sleep because they worked a double and they're over. And it's like, this isn't something to be proud of. Like, you need sleep.
Exactly, exactly. And in Ayurveda, we teach a concept called the circadian clock. We teach
Yeah.
circadian rhythm, circadian medicine. This is a concept that Ayurveda knew about 5,000 years ago. And they said we must live with the rhythm of nature. You can either fight upstream your whole life fighting against nature, it's not going to go well for you, or you can swim downstream and be in flow with life. And so you're right. I mean, that is what I teach is how to really honor sleep and revere sleep and put it on that pedestal it deserves to be on. For us to have the mental clarity and the physical energy and that vibrancy that we want, we have to give our bodies the sleep and rest. And in society, people have just thrown sleep as, all right, I'll sleep when I get there.
Sleep when I'm dead. Yeah.
And that makes no sense to me. I'm like, do you understand why we have chronic disease, obesity, and all the epidemics we have? It's because of this lack of understanding of how sleep comes first. So I have my 6-week program with women, and I put a whole module in on sleep because I wanted them to shift their sleep. And I said, you can do anything you need to for great sleep. Some people can move to the guest room. I don't care what you have to do, but you need that sleep. So it's just funny. It's funny to see how the shifts happen.
It really is. And I love that you're talking about that circadian rhythm and finding that rhythm and that flow in your life. I know that like there's different, I guess, aspects of sleep and circadian rhythm. Is circadian rhythm the same for each person? So are we all supposed to rise with the sun and set with the sun, so to speak? So for example, here we have time changed now. And so the sun has kind of set at like 5 p.m. And I'm like, I'm not going to bed at 5. I mean, I'm tired, but...
I know it drives me nuts, that time change, because I had really built into our lives going to the park for an hour every night for me and the children just to decompress from the day, be in nature. I get everyone to take their shoes and socks off. So we are throwing the football and we're grounding. I get a walk in and I get to enjoy the sunset and really release and surrender the day and call in what I meant to call in. So now that time is at 5 because the sun is done by 6 here. And then we're so sedentary for the whole evening. So I think as a population, we need to fight this time change thing because it's frustrating to me from a movement standpoint. I'm not as productive as I was just a couple weeks ago. But the question you asked was, is the circadian clock different for different people? Technically, yes. Technically, yes, because we all have different doshas. We have different mind-body constitutions. We have different lifestyles, careers, jobs, diets, all those things. There's no way everyone could follow one prescribed plan. What I try to teach is to the general. So I do teach by 10 p.m. you need to be asleep. The sun generally rises at 6 a.m. When the sun is rising, we are meant to rise with it. Please step outside and let the sunlight hit you to activate and wake you up. When you have the support of that clock of 9:30, 10 p.m. melatonin release, take advantage. Have cut off work, laptop at least an hour before so you don't have that blue light that's keeping you up. I have everyone finish dinner by 7 p.m. because I want 3 hours to digest food. So the circadian clock can shift because if someone is, for example, of the kapha dosha, there's 3 doshas, but the kapha dosha, they might be slower to rise in the morning. They might need their time to wake up. And they shouldn't wake up too late, like 10 a.m., but there's an allowance there for they're not built to just pop out of bed at 6 in the morning. And let's honor them for who they are. The vata has light sleep, so it's about honoring them. They can rise at 6. Pitta between that 6 and 8 window is fine. But I'm more interested in people getting complete sleep than I am them following some rigid schedule that isn't going to serve their health overall.
I think that's a big thing is that we are looking for parameters, right? Like that's why people jump on those fad diets. It's like, here's all your parameters. Now just apply these and you're going to see their success. It's like, what if you just found ease? What if you found flow? And every day doesn't need to be the same. I mean, some days I'm in bed at 9:30 and some days I'm in bed at 10:30, but I go with how my body is feeling and I also rise with how my body is feeling. Right.
Exactly.
And I think that a lot of people just need to find a little bit more of that ease and that flow. And I think, like you said, these all kind of lend way to our overall health and our overall inflammation responses in our bodies.
Well, I love how you said ease there too, because that people make all these decisions so hard, and it's overcomplicated when it doesn't have to be. If you're, when you're getting tired at night, it's time to go to bed. It's not like, let's pull out another book and keep reading for the next 45 minutes while I'm falling asleep to this book. And same thing in the morning, when like sometimes you wake up before your alarm and you're like, oh, I should fall back to sleep. It's like, no, well, maybe I'm supposed to be up right now, so let's get up and start a productive day.
Exactly.
Except at 4 a.m. this morning when you got up.
It's true.
4 a.m.'s a little early.
Little bit.
My body keeps waking me up at 4 a.m. Like this last 5 days, I'm like awake at 4. And I'm like, oh, come on.
Which last week would have been 5 a.m.
Right?
Which would have been fine. 5 a.m. I'm good with. But 4 a.m. is not cool.
I know, the time change. It affects the adults, the children, all of us. Yeah.
I'm still feeling sluggish from it. And it's just that difference of an hour, which you don't think is very much, is actually very big when you are a creature of habit and routine. And I am a creature of habit and
We are
routine.
all creatures of habit and routine.
Me too. If I don't get my 8 hours, we've got trouble. If I'm not eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner on time, we're all definitely in trouble. So I have a rhythm, and I teach everyone to use tea time is me time and certain rituals as their anchor points throughout their day to support them, because otherwise we can get off schedule and then not understand why we have that headache or are tired or lethargic. And really it's because we're not managing ourselves on the clock.
Yeah.
So one other question I had for you about inflammation is, do you feel that inflammation also affects our hunger cues within our body? Because I know when you're talking about tea time, I'm thinking of 3 p.m. That's tea time. I know when my afternoon tea is coming, but for myself, I don't usually crash in the afternoon, and a lot of that comes from me learning my own habit and behavior routines and the foods that help me to not crash in the afternoon. But do you feel that people that are living with chronic inflammation and maybe not necessarily satiating their body with whole foods on a consistent basis, do you feel that really lends way to these afternoon crashes and pitfalls?
Yeah, or the afternoon snacking, just the crazy, need carbs now snacks.
Right. I think it's a combination. I think the same person, because I meet all sorts of people. People call me all the time. I want your turmeric. I want your this. Can you help me sleep? So I'm always talking to different groups. There's definitely a group of people who has chronic joint pain. Typically, that group of people has had inflammation for a while, and this is how it's manifesting and appearing in the body. The same group, because they have the chronic joint pain, have now become more sedentary. The sleep is poor because of the joint pain, the discomforts, and the aches and pains. They wake up in the morning and it's hard to get out of bed. It takes a few minutes to know that everything's going to work properly to let you walk and start moving and translate that body. So sleep is bad, that's bad. So then you're tired because you're not working out and moving the way you could or should or want to, or maybe you're more locked inside. A lot of people in the pandemic who are elderly, who I know just didn't leave, so weight gain. And so then now you've got this cycle. You're not sleeping well, you're tired, lethargic, and can't move, so your energy level's low. So now the body's gonna ask you to eat more. You're gonna eat more. You might eat foods that are high energy but low quality. Like you're mentioning, the afternoon snacks, the Snickers bar, and these things people reach for because they're looking for something. But they don't realize that something they're choosing is the wrong choice. That choice is empty. It's not gonna give you that long-term satiation and energy. So a lot of times I do train people that afternoon snack can be your best investment in a healthy, happy dinner. Especially when I meet mothers. I'm 40 and I have 2 kids, 8 and 11. Those children are quite a job. So I do my work day and then I come home to this evening, and my goal is always, how do I get through the evening and stay on plan with my health plan and my health goals? How do I not reach for things out of stress or, just because I'm needing something to satiate? So that starts to me with that afternoon snack. Can it be almond butter on gluten-free toast? Can it be something that's warm and comforting? Can it be half of dinner to make dinner a lighter meal? So to your point, there's certain precursors that make us, I think, keep reaching for things that don't serve and then keep us in that inflammatory cycle. And the problem is a chronic low-grade persistent fire in the body is just going to lead to chronic metabolic disease. And so we have to choose better if we want that last quarter of life to be good. I know this personally because my whole family suffers from diabetes. So growing up, every year I'd go to India and someone had a stroke, a heart attack, a triple bypass, their leg amputated because of advanced diabetes. And I was like, what is this? You guys were all successful, hardworking people your whole lives, and this is the end game? I do not accept this. This can't be true for my parents. This certainly can't be true for me and my cousins and family. We have to break the cycle. Like, diabetes can't just keep going like this. And what was the point of working so hard or building success? Just to pay for your medical care at the end? And so that's why I really try to show people, look, love yourself now, because then you still get to love yourself later. And there's a joy in doing self-care. There's a joy in putting that time and love and effort into yourself. There's a joy in building yourself into a machine of energy and potential. And why not do that, you know?
That's wonderful. I absolutely love that. Like, really planning to be successful long term. And this isn't a short term game. This is a forever game. This is a lifestyle game. And when you're spending all these years planning and saving for retirement and, oh, I can't wait for this to happen when I retire. Yeah. And like you said, you hit retirement, it's disease management at that point. And I mean, like, I know for, like, my grandmother is 92. She lives at home by herself. She does everything all natural, all by herself. It's truly amazing. But even for her, when it came to travel and travel insurance, and she's a very healthy individual, she's like, I'm not traveling. It costs me too much to travel now. Because just simply based on age, because when you look at insurance rates go up based on age, and it has nothing to do with your health factors.
Right.
Well, I love that what you said about, when you go visit your family and you see, people that are sick, people that have all these conditions, and you're like, I'm not accepting that, right? This isn't how life is supposed to be, regardless of if that's been that way for the last 4 generations. I'm going to teach myself and my kids. I love that you brought the kids into it, because bringing that into the next generation is so important too, and showing them that they don't have to accept this life that's going to lead to mediocrity as you get older. You can thrive as you age. You gain more wisdom, more knowledge throughout all of your years. So why not be able to enjoy that wisdom and knowledge as you're getting older too, right?
Exactly.
And that whole family approach is so important.
It is. And honestly, there's such propaganda being pointed at us as a society. And so my children will come home and they'll be like, Mom, I got Oreos in aftercare. And I'm like, oh my God, in heaven, I've been trying to battle Oreos my whole life. I don't let them have these things. That's just one food of many. And I'll explain to them, I'm like, okay, so that's not actually food. That is matter made in a factory out of chemicals that have been put together with beakers and chemicals. And it's a food-like product because it smells like food and tastes like food. And they say you can ingest it, but truly your body considers it poison, doesn't know what to do with it, stores it someplace where it shouldn't have stored it. That's why we have bodies shaped the way we do nowadays. Our body's just storing things wherever it can find. Love handles, like belly, pick a place. And so you're basically poisoning yourself. And if you'd like to keep poisoning yourself, one day your body will give you a disease and I might not be able to help you. And my husband looked at me once and was like, are you kidding? You're scaring the children? Like, listen, we've watched horror movies, scary movies, and action movies. I certainly am not the only one scaring the children. But if we don't scare people out of, or really honestly tell them the truth of what they're putting into their mouths, they're not going to realize how horrible that is. And I also share that I'm not perfect. I love my treat foods. I'm the biggest fan of nachos you will ever meet on the planet. I'm the biggest fan of Chardonnay and having a fun meal out with my friends. But to me, that's once or twice a month. That is a treat. It is to be savored. But my daily life has to run as an investment in self, because otherwise this body won't let me be the productive, happy human I want to be.
Yeah.
I love that you're saying that, like, you got to treat it like it's poison. And I know when I was making that switch to being gluten-free, I had all of these health concerns at the age of 19. I thought I was just allergic to beer. Wasn't beer. But I was having all of these issues and I couldn't figure it out. Western medicine couldn't tell me what it was. They told me I had IBS. I went to a naturopath. We did a whole food history and we kind of looked at, things over the baseline. And it really wasn't until I made the decision that it was poison. Because I would go to like a holiday party and I'm like, oh, just one Nanaimo bar. Just just one, and I would have it, and then I'm sick for a week.
Yep.
And then it was like, no, this is poison, Kayla. You are literally making yourself ill. And when you get that, like, that actual response from your body where you're violently ill from something, you're like, okay, I'm probably not going to have that, right? And most people, they don't see that because it's these acute inflammation responses, right? Oh, I'm just having a little bit of constipation. Oh, I'm just having, some acid reflux. Like there, it's acute. It's this. Oh, I
Well,
can
and
just take this to fix it.
and it's the acceptance again, right? It's like, oh, I'll just take my Gaviscon and it's gone, right? Like, yeah, just take your Tums, you're good.
Yeah, or the headaches or the bloating or the gas. I'm like, these are all signs. We have to listen to ourselves, you know?
100%. I absolutely love this. So I thank you so much for coming on today's episode. I mean, I could literally sit here and talk to you about this for like the whole afternoon, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. So Dr. Shivani, if people wanted to find you or find out more information about the supplement line that you have or about your services, how would they find you?
So the best place is my website. I have ShivaniGupta.com. The supplements are at fusionaryformulas.com. And my program that I teach on Ayurveda is fusionarymethod.com. And then I'm also on Instagram and Facebook. I spend a lot of time there having fun. So I'm at Dr.Shivani or at fusionaryformulasrx.
And I'm going to totally put this all in the show notes so everybody can just like jump into the show notes and click the links. They don't have to try and memorize all of this stuff. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on today's show. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you. It's so lovely to meet such health-minded people. So thank you.
Yeah,
Yes, we
great.
love creating this community of health-minded individuals that are just we're all in this together, and that we can't change the world alone. So, thank you so much for everything that you do for all of your clients and everybody that comes to you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was great getting to talk to you.
Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.
If you loved today's episode and got tons of values from hearing Dr. Shivani speak about Ayurveda and Ayurvedic practices, please reach out to her. Check her out at shivanigupta.com or check out her supplements at fusionaryformulas.com. You can find her on Instagram and Facebook at Dr. Shivani Gupta or Fusionary Formulas. As always, check out the show notes for links to this information at www.ironbodycoach.com. Stay tuned for next time for more amazing episodes. Have a great day.